Paltrocast.
I'm going to say good morning. Do I have the time zone correct on that one?
Yes, yes, you do. It's bright and early.
Bright and early. Thank you for doing that. I assume you've gotten two workouts in already for your day.
Soon. You're close. I'm about to after you.
For sure. So you have good branding behind you because you have a gunfighter's deal. Now, anytime I speak with you, there's usually about 15 forthcoming projects. I know that this is the newest release, then the Last Firefighter is coming soon after that. But focusing on a gunfighter's deal, was a lot of prep needed for this particular project?
I have always been a big fan of the West and the Western genre. One of my favorite movies, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah.
So, and I ride horses. I work with guns a lot. So this was kind of like stepping into shoes that I was familiar with. But the thing that interested me the most was that my character, which goes into the prep, he was not at the very beginning of this film. He's not a very heroic character. He is very much a very somber kind of, he's like a coward, basically at the beginning of the film. And so I had a lot of different like physicality, the way I had my shoulders and the way I walked. It was like a very depressed character in the very beginning, and that's the catalyst for what, changes his ideology of what he wants to do with his life and what ends up happening in the movie. So there was a bit of prep that went into what he was like at the beginning of the film versus where his journey goes.
Hmm. These days, you can't tell where movies are filmed. Was this by any chance filmed in Pioneer Town?
This was actually, funny enough, surprisingly, it's filmed in Florida, if you could believe that.
Wow.
Yeah, they had a western town in Florida that was built so that they used for a lot of different movies, and I was just as surprised. I was like, "What the hell?" I mean, also there's a lot of history in Florida that people don't know about like Western culture that was in Florida. They had like a lot of
Yeah.
cattle history and stuff like that. So, but it was really cool to film down there, and I wish they made more movies in Florida. I've done about I think three or four down there.
Did you have to do any weapons training? The last time I spoke with you, when you were playing the Secret Service agent, you did a little bit of that, and you told me about how sometimes Secret Service people have a false arm to hide the piece and all that. But I would assume that you were already prepped on that end to hold the gun.
So there was some prep involved, especially dealing with revolvers from that time period. I actually have this one here that I practiced with. This is just a CO2 powered pellet revolver,
Hmm.
and I actually would like practice twirling it and all that, and working with it because there's the scene where I basically am holstering it and putting it in my back in my holster, and I used it a lot. So that was really fun to practice with. Obviously guns from a different time period, but people still use that kind of model, cult today. But it was awesome to be able to just, work with those types of tools from back then, and I loved it.
Well, when your character is out there to become the fastest gun alive, and if there's close-ups and you can't handle a gun, that would be a problem. So I didn't know if you had extra pressure. The polar end of it, one of my favorite, and I use air quotes, Seagal movies. He's playing a sniper, but he's wearing sunglasses while he's sniping. So you never know what level of prep actually goes into a gun-related role.
Totally true. And there is a scene, if you don't remember, I'm sitting at the poker table, and it's kind of when I'm coming into myself, and I end up shooting this guy, and then I'm twirling it and I put it back in my holster. It went pretty. So I think we got that in one take, which was great. So that stuff is always fun. It's great to play those kind of scenes.
Sure. And then I called out before Last Firefighter coming to Paramount, I believe, in January. When did you film that versus a gunfighter's deal?
I think it might be February, but and we'll definitely do a deep dive into that. It's going to be a terrific movie. I filmed that I think about three over the end of the summer, I think,
Hmm.
end of summer, going into the fall, and it's just an amazing film. I'm so proud of it. That's going to be with Kelsey Grammer and John Voight, and just I'm so he John Voight actually called me like last week, and he's like, Jess, I just want you to know how much I love this movie. It's going to be incredible. And I was like, coming from you, John, like that just means the world. So I'm very proud of the work we did, and I can't wait for people to see it. It's going to be a very, very moving film. And like you said, I've got some stuff. I'm actually working on a film. I start a new one here in LA on Friday.
Hmm.
Uh, this is going to be a Christmas movie, which is nice doing Christmas movie in December. And I can't say too much about this because it's got a really cool twist on it, on the story and who's in it as well. But I'm really thankful to be working with the people I'm working with. And I also just finished a crime drama here in LA as well, and really fun. I play a cop who might be on both sides of the law. So pretty gritty movie, directed by Brian Skiba. He's got a movie right now, a Western that he just directed with Nicolas Cage, that's on Netflix called, I think it's called Gunslingers. So it's great working with him. And the temporary title for this one is a deadly mistake. But we had a great time. So here I am, just hammering away at all this different stuff. And then before this, I don't even remember if I talked to you about this. I just finished a action comedy, which I can't wait for you to see, called Tennessee Ride Along. We shot that in Toronto. Just a great film that's just hilarious. Leah White stars alongside me, and Gary Wheeler, one of the producers. Um, and great director Marco. We had such a great time. So just some great people involved in that. My buddy James Storm. So there's a lot to talk about, always.
Is that James Storm the professional wrestler?
Yes, it is.
Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't realize that Cowboy had gotten into acting.
Beer money, baby.
Well,
Uh,
going back to you said John Voight, the few times I've interviewed John Voight and it was a Paramount related project, it was filmed in Bulgaria. Was that filmed in Bulgaria?
So this wasn't. You're God. You really are on it. So the producer, Stephen Paul, he's really trying to bring back projects to Los Angeles. He actually
Hmm?
just, I think he bought a studio here in LA, and he's trying to
Wow.
bring more of his projects back to Los Angeles. So we shot Last Firefighter all in LA and Manhattan Beach, which was such a joy to be able to just sleep in my own bed and be here. Felt like old times in Hollywood. So, and everybody was happy about that. So I really commend him for doing that. And I know John is also a big part of that as well, trying to bring more films and cinema infrastructure here back to Los Angeles. So, and I think there's more stuff coming here as well. So a lot of exciting things in that realm for California, which is great.
Well, speaking of California, away from all the film and television success, first time I interviewed you, I was wearing a Poison shirt. You could only see the top half of the logo. You figured out that was a Poison shirt. Second conversation, more rock talk happened. Then since then, I see video of you on stage, not in the crowd, on stage at a Gene Simmons concert. Okay.
Yes.
Is that more family friend kind of stuff happening?
Yeah, so Shannon did a movie with my dad years ago in Canada for TNT with Hulk Hogan, which is a great series. They did two of them. It was called Shadow Warriors. And so, me, Sophie, Nick, we all kind of, we were all spending a lot of time together. And so we've all been friends since we were little kids. And they had invited me. It was a charity event with Harley Davidson they were doing, and it was for Wounded Warriors. So
Yeah.
she had messaged me, and she was like, "Come see Gene play at this thing," and I was like, "Yeah, of course." The funny thing is, I've actually, which is terrible. I even told this to Shannon. I was like, I said to Sophie, I was like, Sophie, I've actually never seen your dad play a Kiss concert, like an actual Kiss concert. She's like, "What?" To her, it's like no big deal, but.
Yeah.
So it was really fun. I brought my girlfriend. We had a good time. Gene's amazing. Always have really nice in-depth conversations with him. He's such an amazing intellect. So he's a legend, total legend.
So piggybacking on that whole thing, the first time I interviewed Gene, it was a one-on-one in a hotel room, and I think he was promoting his Vault box set, the actual Vault. And I was going in scared, going, okay, he's going to make fun of me, he's going to be rude to me. And I think I broke the barrier with questions that showed that I wasn't out to get him. And I saw that he was this really pleasant, charity-oriented, great guy who is just kind of like a wrestling bad guy playing a character. Did you realize that at the get-go, or did you go in nervously the first time you met Gene and go, "Oh man, he's going to be tough on me"?
Well, I didn't when I was so young, I didn't really know who he was at the time. Obviously, this was like in the late in the 90s or whatever. I just didn't
Yeah.
know. I didn't know about Kiss really at the time. But as I've gotten older and friends with the family, he's such a loving guy, just really he's got so much energy. I'll send him an email about something. He gets back to me like this, faster than I would get back to someone which is just unbelievable, you know. And I really respect him a lot. I have so much respect for all he does and what he does for honestly for the world. He loves to impart wisdom and knowledge to people and music and art. He's really an amazing man. I'm really honored to know them and know the family. And Sophie's amazing. Nick, they're all so talented. Shannon's wonderful too.
So, rock question in a very different direction that does mention a gunfighter's deal. So, getting to work with your father on that particular film, point of curiosity. Okay, one of my favorite bands is Cheap Trick. A number of years ago, Dax, the drummer, joined, and he's Rick's son. And he
Okay.
doesn't go dad, he calls his dad Rick. Do you call your dad Marty when you're on set?
No, I call him Dad. I say, Dad, let's go over here. Dad, come on. I don't call him Father. I'll reference him to people. I'll say my father, but I call him Dad. And it's I would hope that my children call me Dad. You know, I know some people call their parents by their first name. I think it's a little odd,
Yeah.
it's nice to have that rapport with him, especially on set. We really champion each other, and we don't let things slide. We want the best for each other on set. You know, we're really pushing for ourselves artistically.
And being house, you've been working just so steadily, and I've called that out in our other conversations. You have almost the Eric Roberts number forthcoming credits on IMDb at any given time. When did your family start to embrace you getting into entertainment? I say that most times a parent goes, I don't want my kid to have to deal with what I dealt with. Stay out of here.
That was always a running joke with my dad. And, it was always something like, oh, this business is crazy. You don't want to get into it. And, they never pushed me when I was, I didn't have like stage parents, It was more so like, well, do what you want to do, Jess. If you feel like this is an avenue you want to explore, do it. I was always in my high school plays. I was always in my film and cinema classes growing up. And I was on movie sets with my dad growing up. So I had this unbelievable background and foundation in film. Being on set for me is like a really comfortable environment. I always feel so good when I'm on sets. And then when I was about, 17, I was like, I think I could do this professionally and get an agent and I started like hitting the pavement. It's not like I had all these doors opened up for me. I kind of had to do a lot on my own, and my dad was really great that way. My dad came from the streets of New York with nothing really, his parents weren't wealthy or anything like that, and so he really understood, what it's like to really make something of yourself in this business. And so I've some of that is imparted on me, and audition like everybody else. I do all that stuff, and fortunately, I get to work with my dad on projects, and I now bring him in on stuff that I'm doing too. So it's a really cool thing that we get to do. It's funny. I was literally just not that I'm trying to name drop. I was literally talking to Michael Keaton about this last night. I was at a premiere of his for a new movie that he directed with his son, who wrote it and produced it. And I was talking to him, and I was like, hey, I really appreciate what you were saying about working with your son because I grew up the same way. And he was just so overjoyed that I understood that experience, because especially in our business, it's not often that you can work with your kids. It's kind of a very, minute percentage of us. So it was really cool. It's such a special thing to be able to share that with family.
A follow-up to that, then your real last question. Is it his son Sean that co-writes hit songs for people, or is there a second Keaton that's doing
Yeah.
really well?
Yes, yes. It's the one who plays that he does musical scores, I believe as well. Because he played last night. He did a set with the um who was the other actor there? Oh, I just blanked on his. But anyway, yes, his son did a performance last night at the premiere, and it was just lovely to see them working and chatting together. I actually posted the story of him chatting about it.
Okay, I'll take a look for that. And the last thing, tying together the whole career stuff, you not only star in a lot of the projects that you're on, but you're also producing. What's coming up on the producing front? Any of the upcoming things are you a producer on?
So my dad and I had co-created a Western series. There's also a Western film that we have. It's all about it's kind of like a prequel to Tombstone. And it was actually co-written by one of the writers of Tombstone. It's a great script. I don't want to say too much about it, but it's a really awesome story. We have a Western series that we're actually meeting with showrunners right now. We have a good friend of ours who's a really um, prolific producer who's spearheading this with us. And we're just meeting with a lot of amazing showrunners that really are pitching us their idea of taking the show, what they want to do with it. And then we're going to go out to the studios, and it's an incredible, incredible story. My dad and I will both be involved in it, and I mean, this is a dark, gritty western that would be quite an amazing journey to go on if this gets done. So that's what's in the works right now, and yeah, and just keeping busy. I'm so grateful that I have all this work right now, and it's also, it's such a joy to be doing all this.
So there's that gritty Western project. There's the less gritty A Gunfighter's Deal. There's the Last Firefighter. There's a Christmas movie. There's an action comedy. You remain very hard to pigeonhole, and I'm looking forward to what's next.
Thank you. And I have an action movie that we'll talk about. They just did post on it. It's funny enough. Eric Roberts has a funny little role in it for like a day. We had a good time. But that is like that movie's we funny enough, we shot that in Florida, and it's I think the working title is In God We Trust. It's basically like a mercenary film. I mean, this movie's all over the place. I mean, we're in Mexico, we're in Florida, we're on C-130s and airplanes, jumping out of the plane to storming a ship in the ocean. It's awesome. So I can't wait for you to chat about that with you.
Paltrocast.